Okay, as we are now finishing up this class on Isaiah, we're going to go to chapter 60. Again, we're looking at the subject matter of the end times foretold, and we've spent the last session looking at the many things that are stated about Jerusalem, and chapter 60 continues on talking about it. In 60 verse 1 it says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come." The "your" is talking about Jerusalem. "And the glory of Yahweh has risen upon you." Finally, Yahweh is going to get what he always wanted from this location. And again, as I said previously, I think that when he created Adam and Eve in the beginning, that Jerusalem was a part of Eden. And all through the years, what he wanted from this beautiful place, he never got. But he assures that in the end, the New Jerusalem, he will get it. I'd like to look at chapter 5 with you. Again, we looked at it earlier, but I'd like to once again look at it, where it says in verse 1, 5:1, "Let me sing now for my well-beloved a song of my beloved concerning his vineyard. My well-beloved had a vineyard on a fertile hill. He dug it all around. He removed its stones and planted it with the choicest vine. He cultivated the ground, took out all the stones, planted the best vines, and he built a tower in the middle of it, and also hewed out a wine vat in it. Then he expected it to produce good grapes, but it produced only worthless ones. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judea, judge between me and my vineyard. What more was there to do for my vineyard than I have done in it? Why, when I expected it to produce good grapes, did it produce worthless ones?" God's dealings with Israel, he's making the comparison between the vineyard and Israel. He said, my working with you, I expected to produce good fruit. And what I ended up with was worthless fruit. That God's expectations towards Israel was always very high. He expected them to be a kingdom of priests. And what did he end up with? Quite contrary. A kingdom that worshiped other gods. And his expectations were not fulfilled. Verse 5, "So now let me tell you what I am going to do to my vineyard. I will remove its hedge and it will be consumed. I'll break down its walls and it will become trampled ground. I will lay it waste and I will be pruned or hoed. But briars and thorns will come up. And I will also charge the clouds to rain no rain on it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his delight, his delightful plant. Thus he looked for justice, and behold, bloodshed. For righteousness, but behold, a cry of distress." What God wanted for Jerusalem, what God wanted for Israel, was just the opposite of what he got. I remember in chapter 1, he said in verse 21, "How the faithful city has become a harlot. She who was full of justice, righteousness, once lodged in her, and now murderers. Your silver has become dross, your drink diluted with water. Your rulers are rebels and companions of thieves. Everyone loves a bribe and chases after rewards. They do not defend the orphan, nor the widow's plea come before them." He wanted it to be a certain way. It ended up what I've just read to you. However, chapter 60 again, in the day when Christ comes back, when there is the regeneration of the earth, when there is this whole transformation of the earth itself and the people in it. During that millennial kingdom, he will finally get what he's always wanted, and Jerusalem will be the city that he had originally envisioned. In chapter 60, again in verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of Yahweh has risen upon you. For behold, darkness will cover the earth, and deep darkness the peoples, but Yahweh will rise upon you, and his glory will appear upon you. Nations will come to your light, and the kings to the brightness of your rising." Jerusalem is going to be radiating the holiness and the greatness and the joy and the light of Yahweh. The glory of Yahweh will be seen coming out of Jerusalem, and the whole of the world will be attracted to it. The nations will come to see it. That's what it says in verse 3. "The nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes round about and see. They all gather together. They come to you. Your sons will come from afar, and your daughters will be carried in the arms. Then you will see and be radiant, and your heart will thrill and rejoice, because the abundance of the sea will be turned to you. The wealth of the nations will come to you. A multitude of camels will cover you, young camels of Midian and Ephah, and those of Sheba will come, and they will bring gold and frankincense, and will bear good news of the praises of Yahweh. The flocks of Kedar will be gathered together to you." In other words, the nations are going to bring in all of these, the wealth of the world into Jerusalem. This again is the millennial kingdom that we're talking about. The Jerusalem, there's two, the destiny of Jerusalem is this way. I don't know what's going to happen in between now and the end of the age, but at the end of the age, Jerusalem will be destroyed again. When Christ comes back, it will then be rebuilt. As we're going to read here in a minute, the nations of the world will help to rebuild Jerusalem. That's the new Jerusalem in the millennial kingdom. The people are going to build it. Then in Revelation we see there's another Jerusalem at the end of the millennial kingdom, going into the eternal age. There is a new Jerusalem that comes down from heaven that God is the maker and creator of. It's not the same as the one we're reading about now. This is the millennial kingdom and the Jerusalem that will be in that time. That's why these people bringing their belongings or their wealth in has an impact on it. "They will go up with acceptance on my altar, and shall glorify my glorious house. Who are these who fly like a cloud, like the doves to their nest it says lattice, but some translations have nests? Surely the coastlands will wait for me, and the ships of Tarsus will come first. And bring your sons from afar." As we've read before, the remnant of Israel is going to be brought back in. The ships of Tarsus. Tarsus is in the Mediterranean, the far end at where Spain is. "And their silver and their gold with them, and the name of Yahweh your God, for your Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you." Again, talking to Jerusalem. "Foreigners will build up your walls, and their kings will minister to you. For in my wrath I struck you. In my favor I have had compassion on you. Your gates will be opened continually. They will not be closed day or night, so that men may bring to you the wealth of the nations, with their kings led in procession." Verse 12, "For the nations and the kingdom which will not serve you will perish, and the nations will be utterly ruined." Everybody on earth is going to help to build the new Jerusalem, and they will honor it, and they'll understand that this is where the Messiah lives, and so on. Verse 13, "The glory of Lebanon will come to you, the juniper and the box tree and the cypress, all these beautiful woods, hardwoods, to beautify the palace of my sanctuary. I shall make the place of my feet glorious, And the sons of those who afflicted you will come bowing to you, and all those who despised you will bow themselves at the soles of your feet, and they will call you the city of Yahweh, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas you have been forsaken and hated, with no one passing through, I will make you an everlasting pride, a joy from generation to generation. Again, we know that in this time of the millennial kingdom, the humans that are living in Jerusalem and in Israel, that they will, and other places in the world too, I assume, they will be reproducing and having children, and one generation to another. 1,000 years is a long time. That's much longer than our country has existed. There's going to be a lot of time. There'll be a lot of people, a lot of generations. And the joy will go from one generation to the next. Verse 16, you will also suck the milk of nations and suck the breasts of kings. Then you will know that I, Yahweh, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. Finally, Israel is going to get it, that Yahweh is their Savior, their Redeemer. Instead of bronze, I will bring gold. Instead of iron, I will bring silver. Instead of wood, bronze. Instead of stones, iron. I will make peace your administrators and righteousness your overseers. He's going to upgrade. Everything's going to be abundant and rich. Violence will not be heard again in your land, nor devastation or destruction within your borders. But you will call your walls salvation and your gates praise. No longer will you have the sun for light by day, nor for brightness will the moon give you light, but you will have Yahweh for an everlasting light, and your God for your glory. Your sun will no longer set, nor will your moon wane, for you will have Yahweh for an everlasting light. And the days of your mourning will be over. Then all your people will be righteous. There will be no more mourning. Everybody will be righteous. They will possess their land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. The smallest one will become a clan. The smallest one among you will become a clan, and the least one a mighty nation. I, Yahweh, will hasten it in its time. This is what God promises to do in the millennial kingdom with Jerusalem. In chapter 61, the Spirit of Yahweh God is upon me. Now this is the Messiah speaking. This is Jesus speaking, and you'll see here why I say that, because this is quoted in Luke chapter 4, verse 18. Because Yahweh has anointed me to bring good news to the afflicted. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and freedom to the prisoners, to proclaim the favorable year of Yahweh and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn. Now, when Jesus read this in Luke, he didn't say that latter part, the vengeance of our God. That we've seen in great detail would come before this time of Jerusalem being reestablished. To grant those who mourn in Zion, giving them a garland instead of ashes, and the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a spirit of fainting. So they will be called oaks of righteousness, the strength of righteousness, the planting of Yahweh that may be glorified. Then they will rebuild the ancient ruins. They will rise up the former devastations. They will repair the ruined cities, the desolation of many generations. There will be a rebuilding period of time when Jerusalem is rebuilt and reestablished, but now with all the wealth of the earth coming to it, and with, of course, the Messiah, Jesus, being there, it's going to be a time of greatness for sure. Verse 5, strangers will stand and pasture your flocks, and foreigners will be your farmers. on your vineyards. And you will be called the priests of the Lord. You will be spoken of as ministers of God. After all of this time, after thousands and thousands of years, when back in Exodus, I think it was 19, he said to them when he was leading them, before they did the thing with the golden calf, before that, he said to him, I want you to be a kingdom of priests, that you will represent me to the world, and the world will come to you to get to me. Be my mediator. That's what he had envisioned for Israel all the way back then. It certainly is not what ended up happening, but it will happen in the day, in the kingdom that's coming, in that day when the kingdom comes. Then they will be a nation of priests and ministers. And those who are in the resurrected ones will join in with that and minister to the rest of the world. I don't know how many people are going to be in the world during the millennial kingdom, but it seems to me, from the things that I've read, life will be much longer. People, it said a young person would die at 100, so people will live a lot longer. They'll be reproducing. How many people are in the United States now? There's over 330 million people, and we haven't been around near 1,000 years. So the earth could be filled with people at that time. And then you have the resurrected ones serving as priests and kings. It's going to be quite some time. You will eat, again in verse 6, you will eat the wealth of nations, and their riches will boast. Instead of your shame, you will have a double portion. Instead of humiliation, they will shout for joy over their portion. Therefore they will possess double portion in their land. Everlasting joy will be theirs. Everlasting joy will be theirs. For I, Yahweh, love justice. I hate robbery in the burnt offerings, and I will faithfully give them their recompense and make an everlasting covenant with them. And then their offspring will be known among the nations, and their descendants in the midst of the peoples. All who see them will recognize them, because they are the offspring whom Yahweh has blessed. I will rejoice greatly in Yahweh. This is the Messiah talking. I will rejoice greatly in Yahweh. My soul will extol in my God. He has clothed me with garments of salvation. He has wrapped me with a robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decks himself with a garland, and as a bride adorns herself with her jewels. For as the earth brings forth its sprouts, and as the gardens cause things sown in it to spring up, so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring up before all the nations. Chapter 62, for Zion's sake I will not keep silent. For Jerusalem's sake I will not keep quiet, until her righteousness goes forth like brightness, and her salvation like a torch that is burning. The nations will see your righteousness, and all the kings your glory. And you will be called by a new name, which the mouth of Yahweh will designate. You will also be the crown of beauty in the land of Yahweh, a royal diadem in the hand of your God. It will no longer be said to you, forsaken, nor to your land will it be any longer be said, desolate. But you will be called, my delight is in her, and you and your land married. For the Lord delights in you, and to him your land will be married. For a young man marries a virgin, your sons will marry you. As the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so God will rejoice over you. On your walls, O Jerusalem, I have appointed watchmen. All day and all night they will never keep silent. You will remind Yahweh not to rest yourselves, and give him no rest until he establishes and makes Jerusalem the praise of the earth. This is the destiny of Jerusalem. And then in the book of Revelation, we see, and I'm not going to read it with you now, you can read it on your own, we see after that 1,000-year period of time, again, a new Jerusalem is coming down from heaven. And then we will enter into that eternal age. And again, at the center of it, of that eternal age, is Jerusalem. It's what He's always wanted from the beginning, I believe, with Adam and Eve, all the way through, and what He will get in the end. Now, when I began this class with you, I told you I was going to cover 5 things. The last one to be covered is sin, consequences, and judgment. I think we have seen through our study the devastating consequences of sin. I don't think I have to go back and reiterate it, since we've seen it over these many sessions that we've been in. What happens as a result of people who turn away from God and don't love Him with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. When they turn to other gods, when they turn to their flesh, life falls apart. It says in chapter 1 of Isaiah that I will not answer your prayers because of your sin. And the greatest consequence of sin, in addition to all of the physical ailments and death and all the rest that goes along with it, the greatest consequences of sin is separation from Yahweh. And once we're separated from Yahweh, we're separated from the fruit that would be ours when we're in fellowship with Yahweh, the love, the joy, the peace, and all the rest that goes with it. We want to be people that don't get separated from Yahweh. I don't want to end the class looking at sin and the consequences of sin. I want to end the class by looking at Yahweh and the glory that He promises to bring in the future. A glory that you and I can participate in as we remain faithful and stand and don't give in to anything other than the truth of God's Word and stand upon it, so that we can be a part of this kingdom that is coming. I am so thankful to God for making it available for us to be in the kingdom. I'm thankful for the invitation. I want to respond to that invitation and live to the glory of our God and help other people to do the same, so that our God can get what He's always wanted, which is a world filled with people who glorify Him and love Him and that He can love. So again, I'm thankful for the opportunity that's been mine to share these things in the Word with you. I hope it's been a blessing to you. Father, thank you so much for your kindness and for your goodness to us and for helping us to see these things that we have. Thank you for giving us such a glorious hope with so many details, so that we can stay the course and live this life with you, live a godly life that honors you, and that we can be a light to the world. I thank you, Father, for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Okay, God bless.